Okay, IRR number 3. First up, language ideologies and teaching writing. This one here really helped me see the distinctions between the ideologies, right? Monolingual, obviously the easiest to discriminate, right? We know that this one is the one where there's no personal agency to language is granted, right? It's like standard American English is the one language to rule them all. It definitely comes from a dark place and is evil. The multilingual approach looked to remedy this, but ultimately failed to do so. Agency is evident, but limited. Personal language is recognized, but circumvented, right? So much like in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, when the young wizards are at Hogwarts, they are encouraged and taught to use their magical abilities, right? Their gifts. But when they go to the Muggle world, they most definitely cannot use these abilities, these gifts. Translingual approach then does seek to rectify the multilingual ideologies mistake, right? Which is it grants personal agency. Anything goes, right? Any language practices or cultural literacies that come with the participant are more than welcome in the classroom and highly encouraged. And much like a Jedi's with their force, right? Once they are one with the force, or they can manage the force, or they can use the force, they could use it at will at any time, whenever the situation calls for it. How do these ideologies manifest themselves in the composition classroom, right? In the English classroom? Well, the monolingual approach, we know, views language one as a constraint, as something to be dealt with, as something to be fixed or eradicated. It enforces these strict rules. It chastises usage of language one. It excludes personal connections and cultural literacies. It ultimately erases individuality. The multilingual approach still enforces these strict rules, still sees standard American English as what is acceptable in the classroom. It allows usage, but demands translation. It allows personal connections and cultural literacies, but ultimately silences them. It therefore still erases individuality. The translingual ideology is very, very flexible. It encourages usage of all language literacies owned by the participants. It provides opportunities to use personal connections and cultural literacies. It therefore exudes individuality, right? It definitely views language one as an affordance and not a hindrance. The one quote that I absolutely loved and definitely resonated with how I feel about language was this quote here. The English language is yours. Blend it, twist it, curse it if you must, if doing so will take you to the point of familiarity, of ease, where the written language becomes your vehicle to, your conduit to the expression of your reality. This was by Elizabeth Nunez. Like I said, this one here is definitely something that I aspire to preach in my classroom. The next article here, Cultivating a Rhetorical Sensibility in the Translingual Writing Classroom. The author here is definitely a champion of translingualism, right? He brings up this concern of rhetorical sensibilities. It's definitely a given that students have a wide variety of language practices that they bring with them into the classroom. But it's also highly evident that students weigh the interrelational stakes at hand when presented with a writing task. They decide, how risky something is right? Because years of monolingual ideologies being pushed down on us kind of leaves us no choice. And we feel that the language that we feel most comfortable with does not belong in the competition classroom, right? It's not good enough for academic purposes. And so these are some of the rhetorical sensibilities issues that are brought up here. The one line that I found interesting was that the author noted that he inadvertently assumed that students can ignore the circumstances that they face in new rhetorical situations and can easily transfer their language practices from one site to another, right? Going back to that idea of participants weighing the risks, looking at what's at stake, right? And then making decisions, academic decisions based on this knowledge that they have, right? These beliefs and these practices that have kind of been pushed on them in most of their academic careers, which is that standard American English is the only thing that is the only thing that get them the most respect in the classroom. To close here, I had made a note here that I know that in my classroom, I use a multilingual approach, right? Because when we discuss things, a lot of the times in the classroom, we're discussing them in a very informal way, where I want the students to talk. I want them to interact. I want them to discuss these topics, right? And so they do it in the language practices where they feel the most familiar, which is, code meshing. But when they have to write something for me, we then switch to that monolingual, right? To where we're looking at sentence structures and we're looking at spelling and all these other grammatical rules that they have to follow. And they do have difficulty translating everything that we've discussed into standard American English, right? To that standard American English writing. And it is sad, for me to know and understand that this is what I do, right, in the classroom. Mainly because, well, we have to follow TEKS, right? We can't really set our students up for failure. We know that at the end of the year, they're going to take a test. We know that their writing is going to be judged in a certain manner, and therefore we practice that manner. And like I said, it's a sad realization, right? And obviously look forward to the day where translingualism rules. Thank you.